Hello and welcome to this special video series where I'm chatting with some incredible animal communicators who have created unique card decks, each with its own powerful message. I'm Joanne Yeo, founder of Animal Communication Insights and creator of two digital card decks, Animal Communication Conversation Cards and Animal Communication Deep Speak. Today, I am especially excited to introduce Barb Techel. Barb is the creator of the Animal Reflections Healing Oracle deck, and her work is something I've followed for quite some time. Barb has been partnering with the wisdom of animals, oracle cards, and her own intuition for over 25 years. Through this connection, she's been able to heal many inner conflicts, including childhood trauma, and she brings this transformative wisdom into her offerings. In addition to her beautiful oracle deck, Barb is the author of 3 nonfiction books and 2 children's books that highlight the heart-expanding and life-changing lessons she's gained from the animal world. What I truly admire about Barb is her belief in the ripple effect of healing. She knows that when we do the inner work to heal our emotional wounds, we not only find peace within ourselves, but we also contribute to the greater harmony of all beings. Barb offers intuitive reading and mentoring sessions for people and their pets, where she helps others feel seen and heard, offering compassionate guidance to deepen their connection to themselves, their pets, and the planet. I've been drawn to Barb's Animal Reflections Healing Oracle deck for some time, particularly how she uses it as a tool for reflection and healing between animals and humans. Today, we'll be exploring the journey behind her deck, the themes that inspire her work, and how her intuitive process helps both people and animals find peace and understanding. So, without further ado, let's welcome Barb to the conversation. Hello, Barb. It's so lovely to meet you.
Joanne, thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction. I'm very humbled by that. Thank you so much. And
Oh,
again,
you're so welcome.
thank you for having me part of this series. I think it's wonderful what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am very intrigued about your introduction to Oracle cards because, as you said, you've been doing this for over 25 years. How did you first come across Oracle cards? Did somebody introduce it to you, or was it one of those synchronized situations?
Well, I would say it's synchronized. Yeah, I mean, it was actually back in 2004. I was working with a life coach, and at the end of my coaching time with her, she got a feel for who I was, and she said, are you open to angel cards? And I didn't really know what that was. And I don't remember the card she introduced me or that she pulled for me, but it was spot on about that time in my life. But then it wasn't until 2013, I swear I've been on the earth to really, really work the process of the inner journey. That's for sure. I'm really realizing that now in my 60s. But in 2013, I actually literally set this intention and just said to the universe, because I had learned so much from the dogs in my life. They have transformed me in so many different ways, and especially my last dog who helped me with childhood trauma. But in 2013, I said to the universe, I want to open myself to the wisdom of all animals. I just want to see how they can guide me, what that's all about, what will that bring into my life. And the key to that was, I've always been very drawn, I think like most of us are, to the cute and cuddly animals, right? Well, as I was, and little did I realize that 2 of my guides were going to come in that help with the childhood trauma, which was snake and spider. two of those that we really fear. So in regards to oracle cards, so when I set that intention in 2013, I had just lost my second special needs dachshund, and I was just feeling really lost, and I just didn't know where I was going to go next. And because I had been introduced to oracle cards in 2004, I had slowly kind of brought them into my life and would play with them. But I had set this intention that for 2 months, I went on sabbatical from all the work I had been doing, didn't blog, didn't do anything. And I just started to journal and work with oracle cards. And I'd get up every day and I would journal, what was on my heart, what I was struggling with. I would first write that all out, and then I would pull an oracle card just to see, what more. And if it was probably every time that I would pull that card, it either, confirmed what I was writing about, or it helped me go a little bit deeper, or it just presented this new perspective I hadn't considered. And I was really amazed at that process during that time, how it just helped me to heal different things I needed to heal. And then eventually I was so fascinated by the process, I would take courses and classes and really go deep. I would really go deep with that as a personal healing tool to help me in my life.
It sounds as if you're describing in those early days when you were going into a kind of your own inner journey, that oracle cards were almost like your healing companion. And I'm wondering, when you first mentioned about your involvement with the life coach, at that time you hadn't even encountered oracle cards. I just love it when almost like the unexpected person introduced you to something. So were you already working with guides, or were you, into spirituality when you went into, the life coaching? So that wasn't so unfamiliar for you when she introduced you to the angel cards.
Yeah, gosh, I'm trying to think. I was in my late 30s where I was questioning what was this all about, right? Why am I here? What's my purpose, and a series of things that had happened. And so yeah, spirituality was on my radar. And because I was seeking, I was a seeker. I'm still a seeker. I'm still opening myself to all the possibilities. But I will say, as far as my guides, though I may not have really recognized it at the time, that is what I was starting to see is the dogs in my life were my guides. They were mirroring for me aspects of myself that I needed to see, hear, understand, acknowledge, and things I needed to shift about myself. So maybe not early on, like with my first dog, though I can see it now. But by the time, gosh, I had 3 special needs dogs at different times, and it was my last special needs dogs that really awakened me to they are mirroring an aspect of ourselves most often that we sometimes suppress, push down, we don't want to look at. So that's having that experience and understanding how that was revealing itself to me. I could see how I understand how oracle cards do that too, because the world speaks to us in the symbolic language. It's going to just tell us how to do things. And it's not what we've been taught. Our culture doesn't teach us that, but this is ancient knowledge. Mm. And we're in a time where we're really being called to go back to that and to tap into that. So, I'm so grateful that I started my journey way back then. And I'm starting to see and understand how the world, the universe, this higher power, this bigger force is here supporting us. And animals are part of that, oracle cards, spirituality. And I love how you said oracle cards as, companions, because really that's how the animals are too, are our companions in helping us, right?
And oracle cards are, from my experience, almost like this safe space, this safe friendship, like our animals are. So it could be that our animals can bring out what we suppress, which isn't always comfortable. And when we're in that place where we can all relate, I'm sure to you about where we're asking all those big questions. Who am I? What am I doing? What am I supposed to do with my life? And having that restlessness and feeling almost like I'm meant to be for, better things, or what's almost like, what's the point? Why am I here? What should I be doing? And we can ask those big questions to life coaches, or we might see therapists. But there comes a point where almost their work with us is done. And I'm almost seeing as if what your life coach might have done was say, our time is done, but have some angel cards. Like, keep going with that. The wisdom is
Yeah.
within you. It's like she could recognize that. And it may be that you didn't take that up immediately, but as you continued with your relationship with your animals and expanding your consciousness with animals, these oracle cards were kind of like almost visualizing, like in the on the side going, we're here. And I love that you took this space in your life where you combined oracle cards with journaling. That must be a very powerful process to combine journaling and accessing wisdom or answers from cards.
Oh, absolutely. Because in the writing itself, more comes to the surface. And I know sometimes that's hard for people is they're afraid to write what they're feeling on paper. But I just like to encourage people, write the thing that's really coming up for you. And if you don't want that ever to be seen, just burn it. That's part of the healing too, is to do that. But I just find so much healing in that. And then, sometimes I'll go back and look, and sometimes I'll read it out loud because there's power in that too, in voicing it and saying it out loud. And even when I'm pulling oracle cards, sometimes I have to read, I'll go to the guidebook after I've done my own journaling and I'll read that out loud because maybe I learned that from being a writer and writing books is, you read it on the computer in one way, but when you print it and then you actually read it and then read it out loud, you just catch different things or new insight comes into play that wasn't there before.
You've brought a Yeah, you've brought a different dimension now into almost the role that oracle cards play in our lives. And it may be that if we haven't spent that much time really connecting with what's the potential of what oracle cards can bring to our lives, we might go, oh, they look nice, because often with oracle cards, it's the design that first captures us. That's what we connect with. It's all unconscious, isn't it? I mean, we think about the fact that there's just thousands and thousands of card decks. Why are we drawn to certain ones? And there's something about the energy of the image, the artistic aspect of it, the visual, but we're also connecting energetically with those card decks. So I feel that there's so much to understanding the process that's happening. And when you're journaling it, what you're saying here is you're adding, like I say, dimension. It's not a matter of just pulling a card in and going, oh, okay, oh yeah, yeah, and then leaving it. You're saying take it one step further. And thank you so much also for touching on the point that sometimes people are afraid to write. And actually, that's me. I'm afraid to write anything down because number one, it makes it real. So it's like you're having to face the fact that this is how you're feeling, or this is the memory that you've, conjured up. But then my other fear is, what if I wrote it down and somebody found it and read it? So I love that you've just given us permission to write it, burn it.
Yes.
There must
And
be
I've
something
done
also
that.
very releasing about
Yes.
burning.
Yes. And I've done that in my own life, especially around somebody that you felt wronged by. That was my experience healing my childhood trauma and, just writing it out, speaking it out, and then forgiving and burning it. And that, because we're working with energy, right? And if you don't, if it stays here, it can't heal. It has to come out some way, shape, or form. And that's what I do love about oracle cards too, is that helps to encourage you. It's not by accident you happen to pull that card and it brings up because it's being called to be released. to release that from your energetic body, because that's what tamps our power down, you know.
So
Yeah.
when did your paths kind of maybe join up, the path of an animal communicator and the path of the oracle card, or were they already there and just they just kind of merge or evolve naturally?
I Well, I was really starting to be more in tune with my own animals. And, I would have meditation experiences where, I'd be hearing from my dog, and I'd be like, wow, it was just fascinating how that was happening. And actually, when I was studying the oracle cards and going through courses in a school that I went to, um, that's when I saw the power of, I thought, what if you could combine oracle cards and animal communication? But I loved the aspect of the human being involved also, because that's been my experience, is my animals have mirrored, again, what I said before, what I needed to heal within myself. And I really, really believe at the core of my heart of who I am, that's a big part of the reason the animals are here. They are energetically connected automatically, and they don't have the same fears as we do. They have different perspectives that they can offer us. So I just really believe that they truly want us human beings to heal and to see what they see, and to help us let go of those fears that we carry. Yeah.
Oh, that's, I just love how you embrace. So what I'm getting from you is like you embrace the lessons that your animals bring to you. You're not looking at it going, oh, why isn't this, working out? Or why is my dog like this or whatever? You're just embracing that, whatever comes up. And then you can seek either the answer or the wisdom from a card, and then have that reflect to yourself as well. Because sometimes it's hard to understand the mirroring aspect, because I always think we've got to be careful we don't get to a place where we're kind of almost blaming ourselves, like, oh, is
Right.
my dog sick because I'm sick? Oh, is my dog stressed because I'm stressed? Oh, I mustn't be stressed around my dog. And we try to almost, then it's more about suppression again, isn't it? And here we have the magic and the gentleness. Well, it depends on which card decks we choose. But the directness or the gentleness of certain card decks where you can pull it. Because I remember with my first dog, I just got to a place where I thought, I can't get any communication from him. He doesn't want to talk to me, or I'm struggling with certain things that I can't understand about him. And I chose to use oracle cards almost as I felt like it was a go-between. We talk about almost like they're like your healing companion. I almost felt like they were, that was probably the therapist for the two of us. And I would be like, okay, if we're both not communicating well and we're both kind of banging our heads against each other, because I called him stubborn and I'm also stubborn. I thought, what if we had something in the middle? So I used to pull a card, and then I would reflect on how the meaning of that card or the symbolism or the message of that card was bringing forth what was going on with the two of us.
Yeah.
So that's how I started in a way to recognize that animal communication can work with an energy tool like oracle cards.
Yeah. And
So,
that's
well,
actually a big part of my work. Is That's why when I realized, the journeys that I have traveled with my animals, and then seeing what oracle cards can do, realizing, so, we have a relationship first with ourselves. The foundation with ourselves is so important, but it's the same with our animals. It's same with oracle cards. We're having a relationship with that deck. And then and I just became so passionate about, um, the animal mirroring, which again, I really love what you brought up about not getting caught up in the blame either, but that comes from a deeper part of ourselves. That's a pattern. That's a pattern of blame and shame that we've carried too. Um, Gosh, I feel like I could just say so much stuff here, but this was key for me in the readings that I do, is really looking at the relationship first and foremost with ourselves, how that does affect our animals, what our animals are trying to show us about ourselves. But looking at it, it's a relationship, and where are we mirroring each other? Where am I energetically? Where is my dog energetically? Where are we energetically as a relationship in our partnership? And then how can we move from that space, especially if it's challenging, something that you're going through?
Wow. As I'm listening to you and learning more about your story, I mean, the words, I mean, your card decks, the Animal Reflections Healing Oracle deck. I don't know if it was straightforward for you to find a name for your card deck because that's the process in itself, but that's exactly what your whole journey has been about. You use Oracle cards to journal, which means there's a lot of reflection going on, and as a result of the reflection, you're looking at facilitating healing for yourself, for your own animals, or for other people. So let's let's talk about how did you get to a place where you thought, I'm going to create a card deck, and how did you decide to choose the name of your card deck?
Yeah, I think when you said that about the name of it, I thought, how did I come up with that? But I feel like that was just automatic because exactly what you said. That's this my whole life has been about reflecting. I'm here to work the inner journey. I know that. I understand that now. That's just part of who I am. So the animal reflections because of the animal mirroring, but I like the reflections better because I don't know, it's like your animals are reflecting something and you're in reflection at the same time. But the process of actually creating the deck was, it goes back to my original when I talked about my life coach. So I had written the 3 books, I had done the 2 children's books, I had done all the oracles, studying about oracle cards. And I remember it was like, it's probably been about 8, 9 years ago now, where she had dropped me a note because I still keep in touch with her. She's my friend. And she said, maybe you should think about creating an oracle deck because I was really into oracle card. I mean, I can sleep, drink, everything oracle cards. I love, love, love oracle cards. And I remember when she said that, I just was like, had this rush of yes. But then my big old inner critic came in and said, but you're not an artist. And that stopped me for 8 years. And it bothered me because, I thought I really, really want to create an oracle deck. And I wanted it to be animals, of course. And then it occurred to me one day because I love collage. I love working with collage. I love paper. Um, and I thought, oh my goodness, I can create using images, that I found in the public domain, and I can actually collage these. And then it became really important to me to find images that were older in a sense. Some of those in the public domain are 50 to 70 years old, which you automatically can use those. But for me, it also helped what I wanted to do. I wanted to use the older images because they sometimes look a little bit different than the versions of today of animals or even the AI that's coming in, because I just felt like it harkens back to the ancient times. So that became part of my mission of the process of creating them. Not all of them that are that because I couldn't find all the animals I wanted to include, but a majority of them. And then once I had that, I mean, it just took off from there that I knew I could do this, that I was going to do this.
That's fascinating. So again, it takes someone or something to plant the seed. And it doesn't mean, again, for the audience watching this, sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves because we think, oh, I'm not doing anything with my life. I've got these ideas and I'm not creating it. I'm not taking action. But your story is very inspiring because it took one person to plant the seed. You got that surge, which means the fire got lit. The spark was there. You might not have known the spark was there. Somebody came along and almost like, and then it went poof. But then you had 8 years where an unconscious thought, conscious, unconscious thought was, I'm not artistic. And this is going to be so helpful to somebody who's going to stumble along this video who probably is in exactly that same position where they might hold a yearning, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be about oracle cards. We just happen to be talking about oracle cards, but we all have a yearning either to write a book or make something, something creative. I think that's what's important. Creativity and spirituality is very interlinked. So then you have these 8 years where whatever was going on with you, the journey that you had to, go through, and then almost like poof, when you got an idea of possibility, instead of thinking, oh, I'm not artistic, I can't do it, because that just completely stops the process. You were suddenly at that place where you weren't thinking, I have to be an artist to create a card deck. You suddenly almost like looked for ways that made it possible. And then the minute we open up that possibility, the momentum just took off.
Right, right.
So,
As you were talking about that too, it's reminding me because how I got to the collage point too. And I think this is really an important thing to say too. It's really about trusting the flow of life and not trying to force it. There was an 8 year period there. But during that 8 years, that's when I was, I had set that intention. I was journaling, I was working with other Oracle decks, but I had also took some training in becoming a soul collage facilitator, where we actually worked with magazine images, collaging them. And that was a very intuitive process that it's sort of like Oracle cards, but you're kind of creating your own and you're seeing what insight comes from that too. So that had been during that 8 years, that was something I had done during that time, which I think added to the fact that all of a sudden it came into my brain that, or my consciousness, maybe we could say, oh, I I loved that collage process. Now, how do I make it my own? How do I create something my own on my own? Yeah.
wow. Amazing, amazing. The thing is, we will always find a way. And like you say, it's not about immediately going, here's an idea and off I go. You need that in-between process, which again is finding your own unique style, your own approach. Do you have your card decks with you? Maybe we can just have a look at some
I
of
do.
the images that you have been describing. It's been tantalizing in terms of, in case people haven't seen
Yeah.
your card decks. Because you've got the
Well, I'm gonna
physical
grab.
card
I'm
deck and you've also got your card deck as digital, which we'll come to, but
correct.
you've got physical card decks as well. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. So like this is the owl card.
Ah.
And so my process was, so I found the owl image, and yeah, part of that he was sitting on the little branch here. But then I found this image with the trees in the background. That's a separate image with the moon. It's a separate image below. It's just collaging that all together. Some of them I use stencils also, and also pastel chalk pencils, which I absolutely love working with. And then, if we do, we want to talk about the process of how they were created.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, the other part of that. Oh, I have to show this one. This is one of the big reasons I created my deck, is because what I learned from dogs in life. So my last dog who helped me with childhood trauma, which is Gidget, this is actually her, that I collaged.
Wow.
And all the wisdom and the knowledge, the books represent that she brought into my life. And her card is Sage, because she helped me trust my inner sage and the visions that I had. But the actual process itself too, once I, glommed onto, oh, I can do collage, the universe put in my path this class that was being taught by an artist, and who had created her own decks. And so I signed up for that because I just thought, well, what can I learn from that? So when I originally, decided I was going to do the deck, there's also tarot decks, right? And I thought, well, I don't want to do a tarot deck. I just want to I like the fluidity of an oracle. But then as I got into this class with the artist, there were many students in there that were doing tarot cards. And I'm familiar with tarot. I haven't studied it deeply, but I have an understanding. And as I was, the first two classes, I'm like, wow, that's really interesting, all the different archetypes. And then I'm thinking about the 21 major arcana and the hero heroine journey. And then I realized I want to include 21 major arcana into my deck. But I will make a little confession here. I went ahead, I created my deck, I put it out into the world, and I had this underlying fear about the tarot that I was going to be judged about that. So I didn't say that that was included till an afterthought.
Oh.
And now I'm not afraid to say it because there's so much growth in the tarot too that we can learn from. But that was an exciting part of the process for me then to think about the 21 major arcana, and I studied each one. And then I would think about and intuit, well, which animal did I feel most represented? That, like the seeker, the fool, which I came up with kingfisher. I don't know if I can quickly find that card, but the kingfisher, I just love that they're so colorful, and just thinking about the symbolism of color and being colorful is just about opening your life to so many different opportunities. But my card actually reflects the kingfisher kind of looking up into the universe, and there's stars at the top of the card, and really just encouraging to follow your own North Star. So that just really added another element to my deck that I hadn't planned, just came organically. And then once I had that, I just really became excited about that too.
That is really exciting. I didn't know that about your card deck. So what you've done here is you've brought in the animal kingdom, the species, into the tarot. And I think that's completely unique. So you're actually a pioneer. You kind of like led the way, so
Well, I mean, there are tarot decks out there that are all animals.
right.
I had that part of my awareness too, but it never really sunk in for me that, oh, I that could be because I like the added, I'm all about layers, and that, like, I really understand that we heal in layers.
Mm.
That is, if I had to say, we search so hard for what is our purpose, but our purpose is to heal what needs to be healed within ourselves. The rest is just icing on the cake. That's what we're really here for. And we heal in layers. That has been my experience. When something, I just had a recent challenge in my life, and I thought I had healed that. But there was another layer there. It was just another opportunity. Oh, I didn't, to go deeper. And that's what I feel like the having the major arcana in there helps to go in a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper.
Yeah. I'm wondering whether because you communicate with all species and the card creation will come from a communication process. So would you say that some of the species or animals almost came to you to say, this is, who I need to be in your card deck? So there was communication going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew I had my set animals that I knew had to be, I made a list before I even
Mm.
started creating this deck. I made a list of who absolutely had to be in the deck that I've had relationships with. And then as I was working with the tarot, that was such an interesting, just a very cool process to read about that archetype, and then, to have studied other animals and think, well, who fits that? Who fits that?
Mm.
So yeah,
I'm almost kind of wondering, say, I know that we're all communicators, but it's more a kind of a conscious, like I'm now conscious, I'm an animal communicator, whereas there's all of us who are communicators, but they may not be consciously kind of coming from that place. So from a card creator process for me, this is my two decks. I'm completely new to creating the card decks. I was so led by the animals. I mean, sometimes I would make a conscious decision, like I don't want that in there, or I want so and so in there. And then suddenly my process will get messed up because I can really feel or hear or sense the animal going, I'm in this one, or another one that goes, I don't like the limelight. And it was just an incredible experience. So I wondered whether for those who are creating card decks where they are using animals, let's say, whereby they might say this animal represents this theme or this species represent that theme. Wonder if there's a difference with the fact that we have animals basically guiding us, almost saying yes or no, consenting. You know, I don't know if you've had an experience where you might be, going along your plan or your strategy for how you want to create a card deck, and then maybe one of the animals might have thrown a curveball. I don't know if that's happened to you.
I don't think that happened for me. No, I'd have to really give that some thought. I'm not quite
Yeah,
sure.
maybe you're just so open to the guidance. Maybe I'm more resistant because I know that when I create, sometimes I do presentations and I might create, a webinar teaching about animal communication, and I might have examples of stories of animals. And sometimes even 30 minutes before I go live, I can have an animal say to me, take that bit out, add that in. I'm like, I've just done my slides, So maybe as I'm creating the process, I haven't been as open and flexible. So they have to wait until, I'm at that point. So it could be that you're so guided already that they don't have to, kind of push you for it. Were there
Yeah.
any aspect of the creation of your card deck that brought you a lot of challenges?
Um, Trying to think. Oh, the one challenge that I had was, and it's so interesting because I was able to look at that and see it was one of the challenges I had with creating my children's books also was in the actual creating part of it. So the originals were created on a 2 3/4 by 4 3/4 wooden template. That's how the artist taught, which was very cool, that I had the originals all, on these wooden templates, which I actually turned into pieces of art that I now have available on my website, which I didn't think was going to happen either. But when I was creating that on the wooden template, I had to actually go back and probably change like 10 or 12 of them. But because when they go to print, it's a whole nother story. So, I was being so precise at first. And then I'm realizing, oh my gosh, some of that's going to get cut off. And it was just realizing, okay, what do I really want to show up within that frame? And understanding that some of that might get cut off. So I had to really make sure as I was placing the image and symbols and the animal on there, that is what was going to actually print. And it's the same with the book. I had the same problem with my first children's book. Like, oh no, we had to, you have to allow for the gutter and the margins and all of that. So that would be my big tip, is to make, because I was like about 12 cards into had made them, and I had to go back and had to rip those apart.
That's kind of like the behind the scenes, isn't it? Because you've got the idea, you got the creation, you got the energy, you got the passion, you got the artistic, part of it that just goes roof. And then well, you have to follow, like you say, the dimensions. And if you're new to this, it wouldn't even cross your mind because you've got the idea of the image you want, and so you design that. And then when it gets to the point where it's like you've got to choose the dimension of your cards, it's not just that whole picture, but it's got borders or margins, whatever it's called. And then suddenly it's like you have to make choices. You have to go, okay,
Right.
I might have to forego this, beautiful gold border that I had in mind. So yeah, those are the kind of the challenges where suddenly the creators probably in us is like, oh, we're being restricted, but go with it. You know, it's like sometimes we can have perfection in our minds, and that can really block us. So what would you, so okay, so you have a physical card deck and also a digital card deck. Now, your digital card deck is hosted by Deckable.
Mhm.
Techel is fairly new. How did you come across that, and how did the idea of wanting your decks on an app come about?
Yeah. I don't remember how I came across Deckable. I just don't remember. I'll be put in my path for a reason. So there it is.
Oh,
Universe said, I will say, one of the things that was concerning for me is I had people from Australia, the UK, when I published my deck, they wanted a copy of my deck. And for some of them, it was cost prohibitive. I'm in the States, and it's, to mail first class, it's over $25-$30. So however Deckable fell into my lap. And the other thing I thought of too is I'm pretty technical, but we were talking earlier before we got on, I'm still not quite sure how Deckable works either, but I also know there are people that prefer that. They prefer digital. They want to carry it with them. They don't want to carry this physical deck. So I wanted my deck to be open to people that would want that capability also. And then for those who couldn't afford to do the shipping, there's another option for them to work with the deck.
Yes, I've heard quite a few stories actually from card deck creators where because of shipping costs and even to print the box, because we
Yes.
have part of the kind of the gorgeousness of the tactile that we can have with our cards is the cards in the box. And when we look at the pile of boxes, because we love collecting, nobody has just one card deck, right?
No.
Once it's like, I always remember this member in my group. She was completely new to card decks. We happened to mention it in one of our group calls. So then when she goes, "What's a card deck?" We all piled in and said, "This is what we got." And so we suddenly got an insight to because she said, "Can you recommend, can you suggest some card decks?" So it was an incredible post thread because we suddenly realized there isn't just one that we can recommend. So of course I said to her, once you start buying one, you're going to be addicted. So I love that about the fact that our relationship with card decks is we can't just have one. So yeah, in many ways with having card decks on an app, I see the benefit of that is you can have, let's say, if you choose to have 50 card decks that you love and you just want that variety, you can have it wherever you are because we carry all our mobile devices with us, especially with the animal communication ones, because if in that moment we want to communicate with our animals or seek some insight, and you're thinking, oh, I just got this one card deck I really want to, or you could be talking to a friend in that moment and they could be going through a crisis and you just want to pull a card for them. Because to me, sometimes when we're so in our problems, we just go, do you want a card? Do you want a card? I can say that to a friend
Yeah.
who could
Yeah.
be, in their heads, upset about everything. Is shall we just check what the cards say? And suddenly the energy changes, it shifts. And so
Yeah.
we have that on an app, then we can easily access it. So I'll show your card deck and how to find it in an app on the app in the moment when I share screen. So for anyone again who's watching this, know that you have the option, and Barb, for you, it was led by the fact that you don't want anyone to miss out on the fact that if they really want your card decks and shipping is, a problem, and you don't want to then add those costs because then the card decks become so expensive. So it's good that you are technology minded and that you are able to, yeah, create your card decks for both physical and the app. So if you had one core message that your card decks wants to share with the
Mm,
world,
mm,
your Animals Reflections Healing Oracle deck, what would be the
yeah.
core message?
My core message of my deck is really, oh, I'm going to sum that up just like briefly here. I just have to go. Of course, I have to go to the place that, because it's been my own journey and I've seen it in working with clients too, is that mirroring effect that goes on that helps us to see all different aspects of ourselves, and especially those parts that we're afraid to look at. But that's the place where we really need to go to really step into our own power, to really heal what needs to be healed. And so many animals have done that for me in my life. The ones I've lived with the ones in nature. It doesn't even have to be animals you've come across like physically. It's it can, like Wolf came to me during a guided meditation. So it's all reflective for me. And it's all been looking at different aspects of who I am, what makes up Barb Techel, that I want other people to be able to experience that. And again, the deepest thing for me is that I believe in my heart that the animals are here helping us and they're cheering us on. And I really hope that's reflected in each one of my cards, each one of the messages. I heard, I just have to share this because it was so beautiful. I had, she actually teaches writing. She's a writer's coach. She had taken my deck to a retreat she did. And the retreat people were just saying, well, how does that deck know that? How does that card know that? And but that's just how it works. That's how animals work. That's how oracle cards work, is they're tapping into our part of our psyche that we've either blocked or we're just having a hard time seeing. So it's just really my deck, the core really is just honoring all those different facets that make up who we are, and the animals reflect that in their own personal wisdom, with who they are, but then also for what we need to hear personally for ourselves.
Powerful. So your card decks are incredibly powerful, and if someone is looking for guidance from animals, so they are animal lovers, they feel very connected with animals, they feel safe with animals, and they are open to reflection, to open to journaling, looking inwards. And if they are seeking healing, then your animal reflections healing oracle card deck is just exactly what they are looking for. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share screen so that for those of you who want to access the cards of Barb's through the Deckable app, I can show you how to search for it on the deck store. I'll bring up my own cards briefly just so that you can get a few moments of demonstration of what happens when you go into the deck and how you can literally play on the app like you would play with a physical card deck. And I think that's important to show that kind of comparison, because I know when we've got the card decks in our hands, we can shuffle it, we can spread it, we can hold it. And I know that that's important. So I want to demonstrate that on an app, we can have a similar connection in that way, that we can swipe, we can shuffle, we can flip. So it's just a different way of working with it. So I'm just going to share screen on here. And hopefully my technology works. Okay. So if you're new to Deckable and you haven't installed the app, you want to go either into your Google Play or your Apple Store, and you can see where it shows Deckable, which is the purple and black logo. So if I click on that, that comes up. I'm just going to go back one step. So you'll see where it says Deck Store. So if I click on that, and this is where you can search, there's a search bar at the top. So if I search under your name, I think you, Barbara, there you are. So there's your card deck. If you want to find out more about it, you click on it and you'll get images to show on here, on screen, what the cards look like. And if you scroll down, it gives you the description of the cards. So if you have purchased the cards, let me bring up mine. So if you want to find my cards, just search under my name, because I've got two card decks of Joanne Yo. So both my card decks are there. So if I click on that, I can go into draw cards. So just like a physical card deck, you can choose to just browse. So that could be you picking out the physical cards and just looking at it. You can do a quick draw, which means the app actually picks the cards for you. And if you look at the bottom, that's where the card style. So this would be a bit like if you took your cards out of your card deck and just spreading it onto, your table or floor with the shuffle side so you don't know what's on the other side. If you want to flip it, and you can pull your card up to the main screen and you can zoom it so it comes out big. So it's really important that we feel that we can play with the cards. So you can zoom in, zoom out. You can also click an icon that says journal. And this would be perfect for Barb's cards because say you picked a card and immediately you get, sometimes you can almost have that rush of reflection coming in. It's like, oh my goodness, this is so without having to go and grab a pen and paper. So say you're in your car, because I find that when I'm in my car, I'm in the safe space. I'm kind of have my own privacy. And if I just park up somewhere with a beautiful view, I do like a car picnic. And then I'm reflecting on something and I think, oh, I'll just draw a card. I can then just type in whatever comes in here. This card brings me whatever. So that's what I do like about Deckable, is that it's got that journal option. And then you can save it as well so that what you journal relates to that card. So I do have a tutorial. Let me just close down this app now. I do have a tutorial that I've created on how to access cards on Deckable, a very simple one, so that you can apply that to any card decks that's on Deckable. So if you really want to get my card decks for Barb's, use that tutorial, just get kind of user-friendly with it and know that you can have it in your pocket anytime, anywhere. And it's like Barb sitting on your shoulder, or me sitting on your shoulder going, would you like a card? And then you can do that. So I'll put all the links. Barb's got links for, or if you go to YouTube channel, Barb does a lot of recordings, don't you, on YouTube for when you draw cards? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So go to Barb's YouTube channel. I'll put the links and her website and where to purchase the cards so that you can journey with the animals and reflect and heal. So thank you so much, Barb, for sharing about your journey, about your cards, and thank you for bringing this to the world.
Oh, thank you, Joanne, so much for doing this series and for the work that you're doing and helping people understand how they can work with the decks digitally. That's beautiful. We definitely need that. So thanks for all you're doing.
Lovely. So thank you for watching. And if you've enjoyed this video, please pop a comment and I will respond to you. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.